Hello and welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. It is Friday and we're somewhat back to normality, obviously, after a couple of, I want to say restful weeks off, but traipsing around theme parks in 30-degree heat is not what I call a rest. But anyway, that's what I was doing for 2 weeks over in America, where they helpfully dropped the COVID tests while I was there, Tony, which
Well,
frustrated the life out of us, I can tell you. But anyway, enough about me. I'm joined by Tony Haggerty. How you doing, Tony?
I'm very well, Laura. Welcome back. Good to see you.
I'm glad to be back. Lots to talk about. A good day to be back. Actually, we've got the fixtures being released. I think it was this morning. I can't remember exactly what time it was, but I think it was this morning. So we'll dive straight into that before we talk about anything else, Tony.
9 a.m. I think they were released, Laura. 9
Yeah.
a.m.
So I was probably still battling some form of jet lag at that point, but we'll not go into that. So, what's your first initial impressions? We'll get into the nitty-gritty of it a bit, obviously, later in the show. But what's your first impressions of what you've seen so far of the fixture breakdown?
I was pretty disappointed that Celtic aren't playing on a Saturday. The curtain raiser, the game, the showcase game to unfurl the flag. Can't understand why we're 4:30 on a Sunday. I think it's a ridiculous time, and I also feel for any Aberdeen fans who are maybe planning on going to the game or coming to the game. That's a ridiculous time to have an Aberdeen support travelling to Glasgow for a football match. I maintain Flag Day's a big day in the calendar. Champions should be the curtain raiser to the season. That should be the first game. Should be 12 o'clock, 12:30 on the Saturday. Don't see any reason why. And I need that explained. I like a lot of Celtic supporters will probably need that explained to them. That's my initial thoughts. Trips to Dingwall, Tannadice, I believe, and somewhere else at Kilmarnock before they play Rangers in the first derby of the season, September the 3rd. And that's shaping up to be a bit of a big week, Laura, because they will contest their inaugural Champions League group stage campaign under Ange Postecoglou. They'll play Rangers on this supposedly Saturday at 3 o'clock, isn't it?
That's what it's listed as at the moment anyway, yep.
That'll get moved, and then they'll play in the Champions League on either the Tuesday or the Wednesday, match day 1, the group stage, depending on who they've drawn. That's shaping up to be quite a pivotal week very early in the season. Listen, we spoke off air, and I'm like you have to play all the teams regardless. It doesn't really matter when. But I'm just a bit miffed that Celtic are not getting that kind of big day on the Saturday, the flag raising day. I don't understand why it's a Sunday, and I feel for Aberdeen fans as well. I say that. You want these games to be spectacles. You want as many people in. I would be surprised to see a lot of Aberdeen fans travel down for that one, and I think they've got a rodeo on that. Both clubs, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we have, and I'll certainly air my thoughts on that in a second. But just what you were touching on there, I'll run through it for anybody who's not managed to see it. So, match day 1 is currently listed as the 30th of July, where we'll place Aberdeen at Celtic Park. We'll then go away to Dingwall to play Ross County on the 6th of August. Match day 3, 13th of August, we'll go to Rugby Park to play Kilmarnock now that they've returned to the top flight. Match day 4 will be at home to Hearts. Match day 5 will be away to Dundee United at Tannadice, and then, as you said, match day 6, which is currently listed for 3 o'clock on Saturday the 3rd of September, will be us at home to Rangers, which I anticipate changing, as you said before. But touching on that Aberdeen thing, I think you raise a fair point, not only from the point of view of us as Celtic supporters obviously wanting that curtain raiser and as a league, I think, and I would say the same regardless of who won the league, I think it's important to start off on your best foot, and what better way to do that than to celebrate the champions of the previous season. A curtain raiser on a Saturday at 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock, where you get to unfurl the flag, have your celebrations, and kick off the league in the best of spirits, is what I think is the best way to go. With all due respect to Livingston, I think having Rangers v Livingston be the first fixture of the season. Well, it's Livingston v Rangers, I should say, at 12 o'clock. Is a little bit of a lower profile game to start the league with, and I don't think it's necessarily the right way to start things off. And as you said, for Aberdeen fans, I mean, I wouldn't fancy travelling, 3 hours on a bus and then 3 hours back up the road at 4:30 on a Sunday at the best of times, never mind for the first game of the season. It's kind of maybe their spirits will be highest for the first game of the season, I don't know, but it just does seem like a little bit of a backward step. Do you think it's just been a case of, has it been a deliberate decision, do you think, for some security reason or other, or do you think it's just been the computer spit things out the way it does and that's just the way it's landed?
Laura, for time in perpetual motion, the champions always kicked off the start of the season, to my knowledge. Can't remember when they didn't. So as you say, and it's no disrespect to Rangers or Livingston saying it's a less high profile game, whatever way you want to look at it, that might well be the case. Just Rangers and Livingston. Rangers are not the champions. Celtic are the champions. Give the champions their due respect. Have them kick off your brand new season. Full house crowd at Celtic Park, unfurling the flag, against an Aberdeen team who Jim Gooden wants to put his stamp over. It's actually a very attractive game. So whoever made this decision to shelve it on Saturday and put it to the Sunday at 4:30, it's preposterous. It's ridiculous. And I know Celtic have been asked to go to Aberdeen on many occasions at inopportune times, and I get all that, but I just think that it's your opening day of the season. It should be about the champions from the previous season, and it's not. And all those teams are going to kick off ahead of Celtic, who have played, and Aberdeen who played 24 hours later. And I don't know, I just, it jars with me a bit, and I would like someone to come out and actually explain the rudiments of that or how they arrived at this decision. And, I just, because I can't see any logical explanation for it, Laura.
Yeah, and Fuji's Toner on YouTube, thanks for commenting, says, what about our own fans that travel from Ireland and up from England? They say Sky don't care about Scottish football. I'm not sure I would necessarily go that far, but we do have our own element of football supporters coming from elsewhere ourselves, so it's not going to just be the Aberdeen fans that are affected.
Yeah. A lot of Celtic fans will be inconvenienced by it too. It's just a preposterous time for a kick-off. Remember when Setanta came in and they had the 5:30 or 25 to 6 kickoffs in a Sunday evening, and it was just ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. But I say I can't understand it, and I get Celtic fans will be inconvenienced by it too. I mean, that's a given. It's just it's not a good time to have your first game of the season. I'm sorry, it's just, and I think it's pretty unacceptable. I think it's a bit of a slap in the dish to the champions. Personally speaking, I just think it doesn't matter about sort of the first day of the season. The first day of the season is always about the champions from the previous season, or it should be get to unfurl the flag and do their thing at their home ground, whoever the opposition may be. Rangers Livingston to kick off the 2022-23 season. I'm sorry, whoever's made that decision, they've called it wrong.
Yeah, not the first time the powers that be have delivered as a slap in the dish, as you say, but we carry on regardless. Jerry Coyle on YouTube, thanks for commenting, says 6 point clear going into the Rangers game where we go 9 clear, mark my words. That is an optimistic way to look at it, and I wholeheartedly hope that that's the case. Having said that, Tony, looking at that opening 6 fixtures or so, that includes 3 away trips, which are listed as Rugby Park, Tannadice and Dingwall, none of which are places we've found easy to go in the past. Does that cause any concern for you? Or do you think, are we looking at a different team? Are we looking at a different Kilmarnock team? Are we looking at a weakened Dundee United team? Am I just kind of looking at those in historic context and not in current context?
Well, I think you are looking at them in the historic context, but that's what you've got to go on. But I think the Celtic team's a different animal. You only need to look at the start to the season that they had in the last campaign. They won 3 out of their first 7. So it can't really get any worse than that. But bearing in mind the manager inherited a shambles and he was building, and he made a point of saying, and he referenced that all through the campaign, we won 3 games out of our first 7. We had to be almost perfect since then. That's when he went to Fir Park and won 2-0 and was telling the journalists when I was standing feet away from him that they called it early here, that kind of thing. So I think this season Celtic will want to hit the ground running and put themselves in the best possible shape for the Rangers game September the 3rd and going into the Champions League. They'll want to build up ahead of steam. Jerry's saying there'll be 6 points clear in 9 after the Rangers game, possibly optimistic, but you look at the first 5 matches, I said it earlier on in a pod I appeared upon, I don't think Celtic will fear any of those, and the target inwardly will be 15 points. Outwardly, they'll just say the 1 game at a time stuff. But I think that the management and the players will be disappointed looking at those fixtures if they don't take 15 out of 15. And that's not to be dismissive of any of the opponents, because you have to earn the right to play them and beat them. But I just think there's an eagerness about this Celtic team now to sort of go on an upward trajectory.
Yeah.
They won the title last season and they won it well. Now they want to do it again and also put themselves in great shape going into the greatest club competition on earth. And it's 25th of August, I think, is the Champions League draw. So I think that's the kind of next big date until the fans stop panicking about announce Jota. That's when that date comes. But yeah, the 25th of August is another big date calendar. That's when the Champions League group stage draw will be. But I think you look at those fixtures, there's always a buzz and anticipation when the fixture list is out, isn't there? You start plotting your kind of course through the season, and I think it's always the old cliche, take it 1 game at a time. But I think most Celtic supporters would be disappointed if they didn't go into the Rangers game with a 100% record. And
I would certainly hope so, because like I said before, I'm looking at it with a historic context in terms of Kilmarnock and and Dundee United at Tannadice and them having been tricky places for us to go. But the other way of looking at it is Kilmarnock are newly promoted. Dundee United were newly promoted, I think, last season, if I'm not mistaken. And looking at it from purely that point of view, it's perhaps 2 of the easier fixtures that we could have got. So it depends on what way you look at it, glass half full or glass half empty. Ridiculizer says great fixture list, couldn't have asked for any better. So I hope they're right, and I hope like you say, we get 15 points going into that Rangers game, because really, as we've seen so many times before, the Rangers games are obviously important and ones that you want to win, but they're not the ones that win you the league. It's every other game in the season pretty much that wins it for you. Looking ahead a little bit, without going into the intricacies of it, one of the important things that I thought was I kind of brought to the fore again with the release of the fixture list was the fact that obviously the Qatar World Cup starts on the 17th of November and runs to the 18th of December this year. Most of the top flight leagues in Europe and around the world are going to stop for that period of time. Now, apparently we are starting back the day before the World Cup final, so obviously the SFA don't hold too much optimism for our chances of appearing at any final, or any players in any of the clubs appearing at the final, but the less said about that the better. It's obviously a strange thing for us. There's been a slight change to the fixtures. There's Christmas Eve fixtures listed at the moment. We had a bit of a discussion about that before we came on air. How much do you think that's going to affect teams this season, specifically Celtic? Obviously, I know we've got the trip to Australia to hopefully keep our match fitness up and things like that. Is it going to throw a bit of the spanner in the works if we're doing well? Is it going to be a well-earned break for us? How do you think it's going to affect our season?
Laura, you look at it from the kick-off the season, from the 31st of July right through to November the 17th, what an intense period that's going to be in terms of fixtures. And that could really make or break what happens in your campaign. and which is why I think Celtic have got the luxury of having won the title and qualified for the Champions League. That's why it was so important to win the title and go straight into the group stages. You know that I saw during the week there was the kind of the teams being, for the early rounds of the Champions League. I think somebody put up a tweet, thank goodness Celtic aren't amongst this lot. And and it's that in itself, what a boost that's going to be. But you have a full Champions League group stage campaign to cram in before the start of the World Cup. Mm-hmm. And that's just 6 high intensity matches in isolation, regardless of who you get in the draw. Those matches are what you want, it's what you crave. But allied to that, you're going to have to just keep peaking and peaking and peaking, which is why the manager wants a squad that he can rotate, because you can't keep asking the same players. But you look this, I don't know how many games there are, I didn't actually count them, but you count them up until November the 17th. That's a heavy punishing and grueling schedule. And you're asking guys to keep their eye on the ball solidly the whole time and win as many of those games as you can. And then in the Champions League, you're competing against teams that, you're in a ball game then, but that's where you want to be. You're not in a ball game and domestically, but you kind of trust the team domestically to beat most opponents, derby games aside, because they take care of themselves. But even on occasions, you can get a bloody nose, as the start of last season proved. But again, I'll get back to it. That was a team in transition, and the manager trying to make do with what he had. Now we're not going into this season to make do with what we had. We're going in with a team that the manager and the players will feel are equipped to cope with every domestic and European challenge ahead. And there'll be a mentality about them because they'll have instilled that into them. I kept going back to it, but when Matt O'Reilly was asked after he won the title at Tannadice, what does it feel like to play in the Champions League? And it was as if the manager was speaking. He said, I don't want to just play in it. I want to win football matches in the Champions League.
Yeah.
The manager's saying that. So this is a team who have come together for this moment, for a season like this, but it's crammed into such a short period of time. And it'll be really intense, but it'll be enjoyable because it's where you want to play your football. You want to play in big matches. You want to play in the greatest club competition on earth. So bring it on, and I think that's what excites the Celtic fans.
Yeah, I think the last time you and I were on, just the two of us together, we pretty much talked ourselves into the Europa League final, I think, in Hungary. So we'll steer clear of that today. But it's this kind of day in the calendar does bring that out in you. The fixtures are released. You're looking ahead. You've got a concrete season to pin your hopes on, and obviously we've got something to look forward to. Speaking of things to look forward to, obviously having had the discussion we've had and the change in the season structure and things like that, David Ferguson says Ange will have taken all this into consideration. The man plans well in advance, as we both well know, Tony, having been on the receiving end of some of his answers in person, we both know how well in advance he plans what he's going to say and do. So I don't think we need reminded of that. I went on this morning talking about planning in advance and just double check the Celtic transfers just to make sure, because as you know yourself, very often when you're preparing for a show, you can have all your questions lined up and everything lined up and completely miss that some piece of news has broken that you've been unaware of in the period of time you've been doing that. Unfortunately, no signing of Jota. Urban Culture says, Laura's back. What have you done with Jota? I promise you I've done nothing with Jota. I don't know where he is or what he's doing at the moment. I hope he'll be signed soon, but obviously the only confirmed signings we've got at the moment are still Carter Vickers and Dyson Maeda, who've made both their moves permanent. Before we look into the intricacies of what we're expecting from the transfer market this summer, were you expecting more movement inwards? I know we've got rid of a lot of players so far this summer, but were you expecting a lot more inward movement by this time, or did you think it's still early doors for you?
We're a week into the transfer window. I've written a piece on the Celtic Way this morning about Jota.
Yeah.
And I premised it on Remember the old Only an Excuse? It was a tape. Well, you probably get it on cassette now, but you can download the archives. And there was a skit, and it was like Tony Roper doing Jack McGinn, and it was about how they were going to combat Rangers' big spending under Souness. And Jack McGinn, aka Tony Roper, said there'll be no panic buying, just panic, right? And I thought, and that's all I've been hearing from the Celtic supporters with regards to Jota.
Yeah.
You can't understand. They're working themselves into a state of fucking frenzy. You know that? You see the guy on holiday. He's on holiday.
Yeah.
Enjoying himself. He's wearing Celtic tops abroad. It doesn't strike me as the kind of behaviour of someone who's not going to sign for the club. And I think if there was a whiff of that deal going awry, I'm sure the manager would walk away because he plans meticulously in advance. You look at the players that have been linked with the club, there are no wingers being linked with the club. Jota's not talking to other clubs, is he?
Not that I've seen, no.
And if his future wasn't secure, you would be doing him a disservice if you're his agent, if you weren't on whisking him off to here, there and everywhere to talk to clubs to secure his future elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm fairly relaxed about it all. No, Celtic turn up for pre-season, minus Jota, then you might start to go, oh. But the manager is, he, as the previous commenter said there, he's planned things meticulously. And if that deal's not happening, he would walk away. And as I say, Riley McGree, right? So it's because in January Celtic brought in a lot of players very, very quickly. I think everybody wanted the same thing to happen. They've secured Cameron Carter-Vickers. Fans are like, brilliant, announce Jota. That kind of thing. It's just like, wait a minute. You've just signed a top-class defender, who was one of the reasons why you won the title. Rejoice in that. Players will come in. The manager will get them in, and he'll get them in plenty of time to bed them in and do a decent pre-season with the other guys that have already been there. Siegrist is another one who's been linked, supposedly coming in or close to finalising a deal for him. But you could sit here all day and talk about players that have been linked with Celtic, and take up the whole programme with guys that might not eventually sign for the club. So in terms of activity, Celtic supporters may be a bit, annoyed that they've not done enough business already. Or a transfer open a week, 7 days. It opened last week, you know what I mean? And I believe that some international deals, can't be done until July the 1st. Is that right?
I think so, yeah. I think so.
Because players' contracts actually run out on June the 30th. So I mean, relax. Don't panic yourself. We'll do business. The players will come in. So, as I say, we could talk about taxi driver rumours, as it's called, all the players that are linked with a move to Celtic. You just know that the manager and the board are doing their business prudently. That's all. You trust this. You trust the process, don't you?
Yeah, well, I certainly do. An Egyptian king has said what I think we're all feeling. I've never missed anyone as much as I miss Ange these past few weeks. I mean, the man certainly deserves his break, but yeah, I'm feeling the withdrawal symptoms. That's for sure. I've been watching all the videos and documentaries of 1 year of Ange, and I have to say, I'm itching. I'm champing at the bit to get back into it and to see what he's got to bring us next.
Did you see the Twitter clip, Laura, of the guy at his wedding speech?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
to the person that's changed his life, and he raised a glass. Ange Postecoglou as his bride sitting there like that. And that's how it affects people. You would actually say that on your wedding day, and you know what? There is 100% truth to that. That's probably the way he feels.
Yeah.
And that's what football and Ange especially has done to the Celtic supporters.
And if Glasgow weddings are anything to go by in the modern age, there will be people from both sides of the fence at that wedding, so it'll have gone down equally as well in both halves, I'm sure. But no, I did have a chuckle at that. I thought if I was the bride in that situation myself, I think I'd have been in full agreement. So, but it was a good one. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure somebody will forward it to you on WhatsApp. It's a classic. But looking ahead a little bit, and I don't want to get too dreamy about it. We've touched on it slightly before. The Champions League groups, obviously the draw isn't until 25th of August. We're in the fortunate and luxurious position of not having to do any qualifiers, which I believe would have been kicking off sometime within the next couple of weeks if we'd have been involved in them, which is insane to think about. So it's crazy, but looking at the draw and your dream picks and things like that, what would your personal preference be in terms of, do you want a group that we have a real chance of qualifying for, or is it the glamour ties you're after? Is it the big teams, regardless of whether we get ourselves a hiding in Europe?
Well, I don't really care who we get in the Champions League. You're playing top caliber teams.
Yeah.
The eternal optimist in me never thinks that Celtic can't finish first in a group. Regardless if you draw Real Madrid, I'd still say, well, Celtic can finish first because they can beat MD at home and take their chances away. So I first and foremost, if we get a group of death, as it's called, or a doable group, it doesn't matter. You're in the Champions League. You're in Europe's football's top table. You're in amongst the elite. I've said it before. Celtic have to have a rip at this competition. Target first place. Can I get first, get second? Can I get second, get third? You get into the Europa League and then take your chances in that competition. But I think that's the way the manager thinks as well.
Yeah.
You'll be targeting first place regardless if you draw Real Madrid and any other heavyweight that you want to mention. It's my nature as well.
Yeah.
I don't see why Celtic can't compete domestically and in Europe. Well, European form in the past couple of decades has been pretty lamentable, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Seville aside, So I want to redress that, and I think we've got a manager that wants to redress that because he wants to make his name on that stage. And I think, what better way to do it than to go in amongst some heavyweights, and you take who you get in the Champions League groups, don't you?
Yeah.
You'd have had horrendous luck in the draw. That's what it is. It's a draw. It's you can't control it, so you embrace it. But you go in with the best team that you can cobble together, and I think that's what the board and this manager want to do. Give Celtic a fighting and competitive chance in Europe and see where we go. Martin O'Neill's team did well in Europe. Lots of great teams with a massive European pedigree came to Celtic Park and left with nothing. So you know what it's like. It's a wonderful competition, and it does strange things to Celtic players. It does weird things to the supporters. Just the music itself. It's just wonderful. They're wonderful nights, and every Celtic memory is based on European Cup nights, Champions League nights. Most of them, So everybody has them, but it's. I mean, I'm a traditionalist. I'd love to see it go back to the round robin when you get a draw and then over two legs and you take a chance, but that's never coming back. But it's
no enough money in that, Tony. No enough money.
Yeah, exactly, and that's sad. That's all it's about. But I grew up watching, as a kid, watching the likes of Real Madrid, Ajax, come to Celtic Park. So I and loved it. Just thought, thought Celtic were playing against the best, and you were seeing the best players as well. So you embrace that, and I think this manager really wants to have a go at it as well. That's where he sees himself, and the great thing is that's where he sees Celtic, and a club of stature and size should be there. That's their rightful place, and let's go in and claim some scalps if they can.
Yeah, I think the only reason I brought it up is because, and this is a very privileged position to be speaking from, but I've said many times before, we do seem to have a habit of drawing the same names out the hat. Benfica, Lyon, AC Milan, Barcelona all spring to mind as having been Shakhtar's another one, repeat offenders in terms of teams who we've not only come up against, but who have given us a bit of a scene to in Europe. And there's a bit of me that would like to freshen things up as far as that's concerned. Just a few of the suggestions coming through. John Boy 67 says, I want Real Madrid. JJ Celtic says they would like Liverpool, and Fuji's Toners come in saying Real Madrid, Juventus and Sporting Lisbon. That'd be a cracking group, by the way. I think, like you say, though, it all comes down to, we're lucky to be, well, no, we're not lucky to be there. We deserve to be there, but we're playing against high caliber opposition, whoever it is, and I think that's the important thing to remember, isn't it?
Would you back against Celtic in a kind of Battle of Britain, Ash, like against Liverpool?
Honestly, I don't fear anybody coming to Celtic Park at all.
Yeah, and I think now under Brendan Rodgers, we took a few Inverness Clacknacuddens, didn't we? So
yeah.
Which wasn't enjoyable to watch, and I've spoken about that before. That's not enjoyable, but I don't think this team will be treated the same way in Europe. So I'll play the same way in Europe. So I just think it's a bit different now. We can go in and we can compete. I'm not saying we're going to beat the likes of Real Madrid or Liverpool, but hey, we're in there. So let's give it a rip. Let's go at it and treat it with the reverence and respect it deserves, and play. Ange's fond of saying, let's go and play our kind of football, our brand of football, and see how it measures and competes against the rest. See if you can get success, because it's proven in the past you can get success.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it, and I don't know about you, but August the 25th can't come quick enough, because I'm desperate to see we get the Champions League. I genuinely don't care. I'm excited to see where this Ange Postecoglou Celtic team can go under him and how they can compete. And there were some green shoots last season when I've spoken about. We went to Germany and Spain. We scored 5 goals over those 2 legs against teams that are arguably Champions League calibre. We still lost, but if everything's a learning curve, then surely we've learned from those experiences, and we'll be better equipped, because we'll have a better team, we'll have better players in the team, and the manager will be expanding his knowledge. He's expanding his knowledge every day. So I can't wait for the Champions League to wear. Once that music starts, it is hairs in the back of the neck stuff. It's the Celtic fans love it. There's that kind of minute or 2 minutes of sheer bedlam when the Champions League music starts at Celtic Park.
Which, by the way, as I've said before, I've never heard another club do that in the Champions League music. The fashionable thing down in England is to boo the Champions League music because they all think there's a conspiracy from UEFA against them. But I know for Celtic supporters, it's a chance for us to do our best to intimidate the opposition, and I think it's worked on a few occasions.
There's few better places to be on a Champions League night. You're maybe biased because you support that club, but plenty of other players and commentators and visitors to Celtic Park on a Champions League night have said the same thing. So we can't all be wrong.
No, absolutely not. Just looking at a comment from Monty, maybe focus on a real issue like our board laureate or his Axon moved on. I don't really know what Monty means by a real issue, but I'm going to try and take his advice, and I'm going to ask you this, Tony. The new away kit, what do you make of
it? We spoke about it last week. It's my biggest problem with it was the price.
Right.
I think it's scandalous. I think we worked out it was 130 odd quid for the whole kit.
Yeah.
For an adult. A lot of people don't like the fact it doesn't have stripes on the back. It's a plain back. It's obviously you can hear my dog going mental in the background here.
Not sure they're a fan either.
It's obviously a nod to the kit back in the 90s. And the player that I immediately think of when I see that kit's Rudy Vata for some reason. You know what I mean? I don't know why, but I'm not against it. I don't dislike it. It's not, as I say, I'm a nearly grown man. I don't own Celtic kits. You know, I've got a couple of tracksuits, but Celtic kits is something.
Don't tell JP. Don't tell JP.
Celtic kits are something I stopped buying when I was, I don't know, out my teens, I think. So yeah, and that's just the way I've always been. So, and I sometimes see grown men in kits, and I'm like, you're a grown man.
Yeah.
It's each to their own. It's a personal.
I think I'm in agreement in such that I would draw the line at the top. I think we all know what they call people who buy the full kit, but we'll not. But this is a family show, so we'll not go that far.
Yeah.
No, the reason I asked was because I think it's really smart, and I think it's got a bit of a tough time from some of the Celtic supporters I've seen mentioning it. And the other discussion I wanted to have with you about it all was it's amazing what fixtures and results can do for a kit, because there can be a kit that's as beautiful as anything you've seen and you never want to see it again if it reminds you of a particularly bad result. Now, one kit that always springs to mind when I talk about that is, I mean, it wasn't the most beautiful kit in the world, but it was this all green Celtic number back in I think Strachan's days, and the only memory I have of us in it is us losing. For anybody who doesn't know exactly the one I'm talking about, is the one that we get beat by Clyde, and I think we had a couple other rough results in it. And it's just one of those kits that, no matter how beautiful it is, no matter how aesthetically pleasing you think it might be, you never see a Celtic fan wearing it anymore, because it just reminds you of a rough time in the club's history. I'm sure you can remember times from the early 90s probably where we had some I mean, we had some atrocious kits in the 90s, but we also had some beautiful ones that probably don't see the light of day because it was during a time we were signing less than auspicious players anyway.
And my other gripe with the striped kit is the star. I think it's silver or white or something, isn't it, above the shield? Why is it not gold?
Don't know.
Somebody needs to. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do with the kit. You've got a gold star on your shirt for a reason.
Yeah.
You won a European Cup. You know, that's why you've got a gold star. It should always be gold, no matter what kit you have. So, and I know it's going to be designed and it might look pretty and it's white or silver, supposedly, but nah, not for me. A gold star. That's a whole.
And it should be a star that actually means something, Tony. But we'll not go into that.
You know, that's another argument altogether. But that's what I'm talking about. No, Aberdeen have 2 stars to signify the fact that they've won 2 European trophies.
Yes.
And I've said before, right, you can get the greatest alchemist in the world. Doesn't matter how many stars you've got. You cannot turn silver stars into gold stars. Right?
Indeed.
So it doesn't matter. Celtic have got a gold star for a reason. They're a big club because of their achievement in 1967. You have to proudly show that off every time you wear a kit representing that football club. Your modern day history is premised on that achievement, and it should never be forgotten. And when you wear a Celtic shirt, that should always be pride of place above the badge, a gold star.
Yeah.
Just my thoughts.
David Bradley says he thinks the kit's beautiful. I'm in agreement with that. Brian McGinty, though, to raise the point you were talking about, he says he's going nearly £300 for him and his 2 boys. It's crazy on a couple of levels for me. It's crazy on the level of, you know, just in the current situation that we're all facing at the moment with petrol prices and food prices and whatever, and the cost of living going up. It is insane to me to think that people are going to feel they have to shell out that money. And let's not make any mistake. Yes, it's not an essential purpose, but is any mum or dad who's trying to do the best for their kids going to say, no, you can't have a Celtic strip? You know, it's like people are doing their best to give their kids what they can, and you know, to think that even for a family with 2 boys, you know, there's families out there with even more than that. That's going to be more than £300. That is not an insignificant amount of money for anybody, and it's just, you just wonder, you know, even with, I think, and I'm saying this as a non-Celtic, non-season ticket holder. I nearly said a non-Celtic supporter. What am I talking? A non-season ticket holder. I think they should lean in more to the aspect of like discounts for season ticket holders on certain things, and people are already putting out a massive financial sort of promise to this club, and surely they should get something back for that.
Without a doubt, and it's not going to be the only kit that Celtic released this season.
No.
So, it's an absolute fortune. I mean, the commenter there used the word scandalous. It's bordering on criminal.
Yeah.
Honestly, 300 quid for three. Well, I'm a father and his two sons. Celtic jerseys, 300. I mean, just say that back to yourself. Season tickets cost that. That's just a ridiculous sum of money. And I think there should be some kind of voucher that comes with your season ticket. You get discounted, prices on jerseys or whatever. There should be some tie-in with that, or the fact that you spend money on Celtic goods, you should be recompensed in some way whenever there's a kit launch. Every Celtic supporter that wants a kit should get a voucher for a discounted kit. I really do think that, because that's just a ridiculous sum of money to ask people to pay, and especially in this day and age. I really do feel strongly about that. I feel for the commenter there. And again, I get back, it is a personal choice, but if you support your football club, why should you not be allowed to wear their colours? But a lot of people, sadly, will be priced out of that, Laura.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids will be priced out of that because their mums and dads or their guardians or parents or whoever looks after them can't afford it. And I think that's really, really sad. I think it's something that has to be addressed moving forward and looked at. They can have sort of uniform price for a Celtic adult jersey and kids jersey, obviously, as well. But I just I can't get my head around that. Those prices, to be honest, I really can't. I find it again, the commenter nailed it. It's scandalous. It really is. It's shameful, to be honest.
Yeah. Acrobat says people are feeling the pinch even more so than during COVID. The club needs to throw the fans a good gesture. I think they do. Elfin Priest coming at it from a different angle, saying you're getting an old kit for Christmas and you'll like it. which was some of the old school thinking that went on at the time. Do you know, honestly, it is ironic that the retro kits are so in fashion now, because I can remember a time when I was a kid, if you'd got last season's kit, you'd have been like that, what? But now you're looking on eBay for kits from 20 years ago, try to find it. So,
well, we talked about kits being synonymous with something. The green kit, being synonymous with the 1980 game against Real Madrid away in the Bernabeu. I've always liked that, a wonderful kit with the green top and the Umbro design on this, on the collar. I loved that away kit. I thought it was a wonderful away kit, and the green shorts. There's a great picture of Danny McGrain handing the pennant over, and it's a wonderful kit. We're talking about retro kits and things that trigger memories, and obviously Celtic won the first leg 2-0 and lost 3-0 in the Bernabeu, but we're pretty unlucky. Last time they got really far in the European Cup quarter-final, so here's hoping that we can maybe improve on that this season.
And another one that works the other way around is I always think that both the Hoops kit, the green and white kit, and the Bumblebee kit that were around when the Three Amigos were here, I don't think any of them are particularly nice looking kits to look at, but I love them because they are the kits of the first Celtic team I fell in love with. So as much as you can be put off a beautiful kit by the results that are found in it, you can learn to love a pretty ugly looking kit if the memories of the team wearing it are good as well.
The Bumblebee kit just took off really because it was Tommy Bum's swashbuckling team, wasn't it? Rip roaring, free scoring, never boring, he dared to say. But, and the idea of that is that Bumblebee kit, Celtic never won anything in it. Yet you ask any Celtic supporter, they love the kit and they love the players that played in it. That team's revered. So and I've spoken to Tosh McKinley once about that, and he said that people still come up to him and talk about that Tommy Burns team and that won nothing, and it's synonymous with the Three Amigos, the Bumblebee kit, the sideburns and golden boots, Cadetti scoring for fun, and Van Hooijdonk scoring for fun as well. So it's it was Nick Hornby, I think, in Fever Pitch that said his life was played out in seasons. Sometimes part of your history is played out in kits, isn't it?
Yeah.
And jerseys and strips, and memories that Celtic strips trigger.
Yeah.
And it's just the beauty of football, really, isn't it?
Oh, I could talk about it for hours. Kits are not everybody's favorite topic of conversation, but certainly I could go on about it for hours, and frequently do with anybody that will listen. So it's an interesting one for me anyway. And Paul Diet, just to bring this part of the conversation to a close, says, "Hi all, every kit released while Ange is in charge will become iconic." I can see that happening, certainly. And hopefully that's an indicator of what's happening on the pitch as much as what people are wearing off of it. To close out the show, Tony, I was going to talk a little bit about transfers again, and about what we're expecting going forward. In terms of timeline, before we look again at the team and where we need to strengthen, we've done a lot to get a number of players out of the club. Obviously, Nir Bitton and Tom Rogic finished their service with us with relatively high profile exits. We've seen Kerr McInroy offloaded to Kilmarnock. Luca Cono's been released. We are getting rid of a lot of players who maybe weren't going to come in with a chance of making it in the Celtic team, and certainly after a number of years of trying. Before we look at who's coming in, do you think that's as important a part of the process of a transfer window as anything?
Without a doubt. I think at this stage, the manager knows himself. People love him, but there's a ruthless streak there.
Yes.
You have to get rid of, and I use the term loosely, dead wood, or players that you don't think will take you on to that next level. And he's in the process of doing that. And the first two that left the building were Nir Bitton and Tom Rogic. Now, regardless of what you think about that, the move to let them go was sanctioned. So it would have been sanctioned by the manager,
Yeah.
So I don't think there was too much in terms of persuading them to stay, despite the fact that Tom Rogic had arguably his best season in a Celtic jersey. But if Celtic are to get to where Ange wants them, then hard decisions have to be made.
Yeah.
Tough decisions. In some quarters, some people might see them as unpopular. But, Ange's not up and about. Everybody loves him. He loves his public utterances, but he's a manager of a Celtic Football Club, and with that comes a ruthlessness and an efficiency in his job, and he's quietly going about that. There's no two ways about it. He is now looking at players that, one, are oven ready, first team ready, but will improve your club. No one will come into Celtic now that will not be an improvement on what we already have. No one under the manager. That's a fact. We're now at the stage where we can plan that meticulously. You bring in Jota. You've had him on loan for a season, but he's going to improve your club, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's signed a term deal, and then anyone else that comes in will improve. Seagrease possibly coming in. He's not coming in to be second fiddle. He's coming in to challenge.
Yeah.
That's the challenge laid down by Ange. Can you challenge Joe Hart for the number 1 jersey? Well, go and do it. That's why you're coming to the club. As I say, we can speculate about others coming in, but until they sign, then it's pretty pointless. But as a commenter said earlier, managers planned all this. This is all going to plan. So the players that are coming in are improving your football club to take you to the stage where he wants and the levels that he wants to take Celtic Football Club to.
Yeah, I think I've been quite encouraged by it, because it's my personal opinion, and this is nothing disrespectful to any of the players who have been let go, but I think it's clear from Bitton and Rogic aside, who have served the club well and were always going to leave at some point, but some of the other players who've been let go who maybe haven't broke into the first team, I think in years gone by, I've seen situations with other managers and in other circumstances where they've maybe been kept on a season longer than they should have been, and perhaps been led to think that they were going to be given a chance that never came. I'm quite encouraged to see this kind of more, not necessarily cutthroat, but a slightly more black and white approach to how things are done, and to trying to build a team that is successful without having too much sentimentality attached to any player that's still at the club.
Well, the great thing about our manager is that I think he's detached from sentimentality, isn't he?
Yeah.
There remains a real detachment from sentimentality from Ange, which is great, which augurs well for the club, because he only has the club's best interest at heart, not individuals. Celtic Football Club, and everybody benefits then from that if he's detached from sentimentality. But one thing he's certainly not detached from is reality, and he knows the players he wants to bring in. He knows the areas that he needs to strengthen, and we've spoken about before, because he spoke about it. He doesn't just bring in good people and good players. He envisages players in his team before they sign for the club. It's the way he does his business. He told us that, about the Clairefontaine episode when the coach said, "Once you know, you know." So he likened it to when his wife goes shopping, she knows exactly what to get.
Yeah.
I know exactly what to get when I go shopping for players. So rest assured, and I've said before, he have an extensive and exhaustive list of players and targets that he knows can do a job for Celtic and elevate them to another level. He's currently working on that. Some sometimes make their way into the public domain, others don't. So I wouldn't be surprised if, the players that Celtic are linked with, one or two of them are right, but don't be surprised if one or two other names that we haven't heard of enter the building, because that's just the way he does his business, or the way he thinks about who can come in to strengthen that team.
Yeah, Polymorphous on YouTube. I'm going to give him his moment because he says, trying to comment and Tony's lifting the words right out of my mouth. If Ange can afford to be ruthless now that he has a few players in and a leg to stand on, players must be Ange Ball ready. That's exactly what you're saying. It's as much about identifying who won't be ready or fit for what we're trying to do as it is about trying to identify players to bring in that will be ready.
It's what makes good managers, Laura. The ability to shut off from everything and see that and make those decisions, right? And so far, as Paul said there, he now he's earned the right to do that, and he's now slowly plotting his way through the team and through the squad. And this man knows exactly what Celtic needs. He knows exactly what they need, having watched them all last season, watched them win the title, and don't think for a minute that he's not got designs and get into the Champions League and making an impact. He wants to make an impact in the biggest tournament of all. And in order to do that, he's going to have to bring in players, as Paul's commenter said there, that are Ange Ball ready, for want of a better phrase. But he's bringing in players that are going to improve that team no end.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we move on, I'm seeing a few comments coming up about Danielle, who I know is a regular contributor and commenter, who's not on the stream today. I'm not exactly sure what's going on as I'm just back, but I understand she's not very well at the moment, and she's currently undergoing investigations to figure that out. So just want to say, obviously, from everybody at Axom, Danielle, if you're watching this back or anything, all the best with your treatment, and all the best with anything that's going on with you. I hope you're keeping well, and I think I speak for everybody when I say we hope to see you back in the comments sometime soon, because that'll obviously mean you're doing well. So all the best to Danielle and to anybody out there who's dealing with anything similar at the moment. Tony, just to close out the show, we've talked about players who are going out. We've talked about Jota and the fact that we shouldn't panic about,
Announce Jota.
Yeah, announce Jota. Yeah.
Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark!
Yeah, we've talked about that fact ad nauseum already this show. But in terms of timeline, I mean, how much do you think not being involved in the Champions League qualifiers alters the timeline for getting players in? To me, the more that I think about it, it really is only a matter of weeks difference, because you still do want players in relatively early to get into pre-season training and get used to things, don't you?
Of course, yeah. But I think that they bought themselves precious and valuable time by winning the title. And obviously Celtic don't play in the Champions League till September. But again, I put it down to the fact that the manager knows this. He'll have meticulously planned all of this, and I think you will see some movement. Probably after January, June the 30th. So I'm not panicking per se, but I think the manager knows exactly what kind of squad he wants to assemble and get them ready and up to speed. And he'll have it in the back of his mind that time is of the essence, but it's not panic stations like the way it was last season when you were fielding Dane Murray and Stephen Welsh against Midtjylland in the qualifiers. We did the hard bit by winning the title this season. You did a lot of the hard work by doing that. You bought yourself time, and you bought time to prepare and time to really weigh up what targets you're going to bring in. And by the access to the lucrative Champions League group stages, you maybe sort of earned yourself some spurs in the process and a wee bit more money to spend, so you can afford to be a wee bit more picky and a wee bit more choosy in terms of your targets. And I dare say that's what the manager is weighing up and assessing now. But trust me, there'll be players coming in. There will be players coming into Celtic, and there is no panic at the minute. There doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement that panic is not the right way to go about things. We've made mistakes with panic signings in the past, as we've all seen, and I think that's something that we need to try and avoid. I think I think we know we've got a manager who plans ahead meticulously. We know we've got a manager who, as yet, hasn't really made a mistake in the transfer window, and I hope it continues. I almost am at the point where he could sign anybody. I mean, let's be totally honest. The very fact that he signed Joe Hart and turned him into one of my favourite Celtic players, to the point where I voted for the guy for Player of the Year, just says everything you need to know. He could sign anybody at the moment, and I would be saying, well, if Ange wants him, I'll take him, and we'll see what happens. So, I really hope that we show the patience that we need to show, that Ange is given the time that he needs to be given to make the decisions that we know he can make. And I think, as we all say, trust the process, and that'll be the be all and end all, surely.
Yeah, and also you look at players last season, Laura, that under Ange were rotated. I'm talking about the likes of Turnbull, O'Reilly. You've not seen the best of Ideguchi yet, so you don't know what he's got to offer. These guys are all going to do a pre-season. They're going to be all the better for it.
Yeah.
They're going to make anybody in that squad's there for a reason. They're going to have to contribute. And they're going to make a hell of a contribution over the course of the season. Might not play every week because he likes his rotation, but I think rotations to stop players from burning out. I mean, Callum McGregor, 60 plus games again. There's a man in dire need of a rest. So, and I think the manager knows that in order to, in some of the lesser games this season, could he afford to rest Callum McGregor? He'll be working on things like that right now, bringing in the type of players that will afford them that luxury.
Yeah,
these kind of things. But I think it's a big season for the likes of Turnbull, the Bull, as the manager likes to call him, and O'Reilly. I want to see what O'Reilly can do, because I like the look of O'Reilly. We're desperate to see what Ideguchi brings to the table. So that, and obviously Hatate as well, who looked as if he was burned out a wee bit before the end of the season. These guys will be refreshed, and and you will reap the benefit of that. And then you talk about adding even better players into that mix. It's an exciting time for Celtic and their supporters and the manager, because I'm sure he's desperate to see where it can lead to.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. And the thing about Callum McGregor that you brought up there is, it's not even just about giving players like him a rest. It's about knowing that there's an option there if the worst should happen and he ends up injured for any reason. Sometimes it's not always a choice whether you can have somebody in the squad or not. It's it's sometimes out of necessity that you're missing somebody or having to bring somebody in. So hopefully those things are being looked at, and I'm sure they will be for not just for extra options, but in the cases where it's an absolute necessity. But it remains to be seen what happens with the team going forward. What's certain is we'll be there every step of the way, that's for sure. I want to say thank you to everybody in the comments for getting involved today. It's been really good to be back and to be chatting with you all, chatting Celtic. I've had a bit of withdrawal symptoms, so it's been good to be back doing that. Tony, it's been good to be back on with you on a Friday as always. I kind of feel like we're at the start of the new season for me, and we're ready to kick on. So I'm hoping we'll get to cover as much good news as we did last season, that's for sure.
Announce Jota.
And with that, we will say goodbye. Thanks to everybody for watching, and we'll see you again very, very soon.